Welcome to the show that looks at truth, fiction, and reality with a smirk. I'm Aaron Peterson.
I'm Amanda Sink.
And I'm Zach Parkinson.
And welcome to Smirk. This is my episode this week. I'm pretty pumped, man.
Woohoo!
It's true, you love talking.
Wow, that stung a little bit. I'm hoping that my title isn't as offensive this time. That's what I'm hoping for. That's really my goal.
Did you do some history research at least?
I did this time, yeah.
Good.
Did you Google it this time just to see?
Yeah. I did double check it. It should be okay. I think we'll be safe.
No massive Wikipedia entries on this one?
Otherwise, send your emails to Aaron
Shut
at smirkpodcast.com.
Shush it. Are you guys ready? I think this is going to be a fun one.
Well, if you say so.
Not in a happy way, but a fun one regardless.
Good.
Okay.
You know I'm tired of happiness.
Yeah, obviously. Okay, you guys ready?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a story. Dwayne and Jake were leaving the quick stop just as the call came in. Dwayne looked down at his phone and saw who it was, his cousin Mike. Immediately, he sighed. Turning his gaze to Jake, they both shook their heads and decided to ignore the ring. Not today, they said. Rounding a corner, they headed back to the neighborhood. Being brought up in the projects, you come to know which calls, family or otherwise, you should absolutely ignore, and Mike was definitely one of those. While both Dwayne and Jake have escaped many of the trappings of their financially strapped community, Mike wore them all like a badge of honor. Drugs, illegitimate kids, violence, it was all Mike's day job. Jake, though, he was heading to the military soon, hoping to get a fresh start and find his way out of the hole he'd dug for himself, while Dwayne was just trying to keep from falling into yet another cultural abyss. They finally put Mike's call behind them and returned to ribbing each other and laughing about the futures they know they'd never have. That's when the phone rang again. Now, Mike calling once usually meant he was about to need help doing something stupid and most likely illegal. But calling back immediately, well, that meant he was in trouble. And in this neighborhood, you don't ignore those calls. Dwayne hurriedly picked up. What's up? Dwayne, that's you? Mike was agitated. Man, you need to get over to the house right now. I just got back and my 2 front windows are busted out. I don't know if they're still in there, but the cops are in no hurry and my pups are in there. Trained or not, I don't want a chance my boy's getting hurt. Can you back me up? Of course, neither Jake nor Dwayne wanted any part of it, but family's family. So they tore through the complex and pulled up right as Mike was prepping to enter, SWAT style, checking his 6 and everything else he learned from cheesy action movies. Mike slapped his hand on the beware of dog sign just as he burst through the door, pistol in hand. Jake and Dwayne followed right behind him, wielding a bat and a 2x4 from Dwayne's trunk. As they worked their way through Mike's place, they finally arrived at the living room. And that's where they stopped, dead in their tracks, staring at the horrific sight lying before them, mouths agape. Astonished, no one could speak. See, around the room, Mike's possessions were all still there. Big screen TV, stereo, a few random narcotics, even a handful of cash. Also peppered throughout this room was a thick, red fluid, as if someone had splattered paint all over the walls and furniture. But it wasn't paint. This was blood. And sitting square in the middle of the floor, calmly licking their lips and sitting upright at attention, were Mike's pair of 6-month-old Rottweilers. Blood dripping from their mouths, but somehow happy as could be. There were no assailants in sight, just remnants of a crime gone very, very wrong. And from the looks of the scene, these criminal masterminds would not be bothering Mike ever again.
Wow, that's intense. Those dogs sounded so cute in the beginning.
So what do you think?
They're still cute. Yeah. Just did their job.
I mean, they need a bath. They need a bath right now.
With a garden hose, yeah. So what do you think the moral of the story is?
Dog is man's best friend.
Yeah, don't mess with a dude and his pups.
Yep, don't mess with a dude and his pups. Is that right?
Yeah, that's close. The moral is always respect the beware of dog sign.
I like it.
There you go.
See, I told you it was fun, even though it wasn't. See?
You got very Tarantino on us.
You thought that story was going darker, didn't you?
I was hoping it would. It was getting interesting.
You wanted the dogs dead? What kind of sick person are you?
I was just hoping that the story would kind of devolve into something more vicious and...
That's... Man. Had to be more vicious than that.
Yeah, that's PG stuff right there. That's Air Bud 2.
Airbud 2. Blood everywhere. Everything scattered around the room. Dogs with blood in their mouths. But hey, yeah, it's like Airbud.
Airbud 2, dogs in the hood.
Okay, so my first question is this. Jake and Dwayne, they both went in with Mike and completely disregarded the beware of dog sign. As it was alluded to in the story, they weren't too fond of Mike, so most likely had little knowledge of the dogs themselves. Would you still have went in, or does family justify the risk for you?
Well,
You don't ever slow down for family.
No, you just keep moving, Vin?
I was just thinking that too.
Vin?
Vin Diesel.
Oh, Vin.
Family.
Like Coronas.
Yeah, with Coronas.
Love a good Corona. Yeah, no, I would, absolutely.
Really?
I
You
see
wouldn't question it at all?
No. I trust Mike. Mike needs my help. Clearly, I have some kind of relationship with Mike.
I mean, if I'm showing up over at Mike's place to help him, it means that I do care. And if I'm already going over there despite me having hesitations, I've already overcome that enough that you're probably filled enough with adrenaline and you want to help your family as much as you can. I'd probably try to do that with anyone. I'm not saying I wouldn't get scared and run away if I saw the dogs, because I've been attacked by dogs before, so I have like a fear. But I mean, if somebody's in distress, I feel like you have to try to help them. Like if somebody says, hey, I need you to come over, I need you to help me, you got to do what you got to do.
Even
if you care.
Even if you're risking your life to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up?
I value other people's lives more than like their safety. That I would put their safety above mine.
What if you were Jake and it wasn't your family, it was your friend's family? You would still, same call?
If that person is my family, then their family is my family.
Wow. You guys are some badasses. You are.
No, I'm not saying I wouldn't scream or anything. I might still run away, but I would still try to enter.
Wasn't it you that couldn't go into the woods because there's bugs, but dogs, no problem?
Well, I mean, I would be scared of the dogs, but I would much rather deal with vicious animals like dogs.
That makes logically no sense.
than bugs. I don't have nightmares about vicious dogs.
I'm fine with rabid dogs. I don't even care, but flies can't have that.
Yeah, they're very annoying.
Spiders.
God, that makes no sense at all. All right.
What about you, Aaron?
Same thing. I would go. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
I think if somebody's in need, you help them. I would probably go in even if I didn't know them, if I thought it was a
Exactly,
need.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I would need to know him.
You would weigh that? Like, you know what? I don't even know your last name, but we're not.
Hey, if I'm just driving by, someone's like, hey, man, someone broke into my house. Can you help me out? I'll just roll up the window and push down the pedal.
Damn. You're a cool man.
I don't know you.
Oh my gosh.
I ain't nobody's hero. You hear me?
No capes. In my story, these dogs obviously attacked and thwarted off robbers. So here's kind of where I'm getting into the real part of the conversation. They've now attacked people. So this is a two-parter. Should the animals be held responsible, i.e. put down? Some people think you should put an animal down when they attack people. B, would you be concerned for your own safety if you were Mike or Dwayne or Jake?
They should not be put down. I am not concerned. Done.
That was the easiest
That was
portion.
very succinct.
What do you think?
I do not think that they should be put down for protecting in terms of that. When they sense danger, they are reacting. They're not causing an action. They are just reacting. So if they were just on the street and they randomly attacked somebody else because they saw them walking by, that would cause more concern for me than animals that are protecting their home. They are protecting it just like we would as individuals if we were there and we could. I would be a little concerned, but I feel like animals are loyal enough to their owners. And if you've raised them right, they can be protection animals versus attacking animals. And so that's kind of where I sit on it, is it really just depends on them.
So you don't have any fear when you're walking into the house?
I mean, I would still be scared, I guess, but if they're my dogs, I have probably built that relationship up enough that
What if you're like Jake?
Yeah,
or Dwayne? Is Dwayne the buddy?
I'm definitely scared.
Dwayne, it was his cousin.
Because
Mike is his cousin.
you can't just tell the dog, hey, I'm not part of the robbers affiliation here. Like,
Although I would love to see that happen. Hey, I'm not with him, I swear.
hands up in the air. But you can't talk a dog down like that. So if they're already in that state of mind, they could still attack you. You're taking that risk if they don't know you well enough. Mm-hmm. If they don't know you at all.
Good thing Mike's got a piece.
Yeah, good thing. But if it's your animal, I don't think you have to worry as much. My concern is more with animals that attack more randomly.
You think they should be put down?
I don't think they should be put down. I feel like that's really cruel, but I still think there should be like sufficient training for them and maybe removal from their owners. If they can't be maintained and well behaved with the people they're with, it could be because of their environment. It could be because they're being abused in their home life. You don't really know. And I don't think that they should really continue with their owners if they're attacking other people because they're not being raised properly.
I mean, defending your home, absolutely not. Don't put an animal down for that. If they attack people
randomly, yeah.
Randomly,
you can,
I mean,
look into it.
Maybe you give them one because you don't know the situations. Maybe they were provoked in some way. But if it happens again, they're down. I'm sorry. They need to go down because that animal is danger.
It sounds like a parent's perspective.
It is a parent's perspective. I'm a parent. So yeah. I mean, you gotta think of your children, you gotta think of your family, you gotta think of safety. And if, they're out in the yard and they're just chilling, they're on a chain or something and somebody goes up to pet them and they bite that person, that's a concern. A, you should probably have a fence if you have an animal like that. Agreed.
B, if your kid is running up to an animal and petting it and you're not paying attention to them or teaching them not to run up and touch random animals, that's your kid's fault and that's your fault.
So it's natural selection?
I mean, I got attacked by a dog. It's my fault. I shouldn't have been pulling on the hair.
I don't like strangers touching me.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Do you bite people when they touch you?
Sometimes.
Starting to
if I'm in the mood.
Yeah.
How you doing? Growl. I mean, growl.
But I've seen situations, for example, in terms of my profession, I've had customers who they get a claim against them, a lawsuit where they're being accused of their animal attacking someone else at a vet's office when this person ran up on the dog, a big dog, and scared them and provoked them and was yelling at the dog.
Why are they doing that?
It was like a reaction, like a weird reaction. Then they started yelling at the dog because it was so big. Like it turned around when they were like running at it because they were kind of like, what's running at me? Mm-hmm. And then they started yelling. They started yelling at the animal because they were scared. And the animal like scratched their arm or bit their arm or something. It was very minor, but it was enough that they were like, I'm calling the police.
I could get a house out of this.
This dog is now probably going to have to be put down because of that. And it was such a minor
You know what? That person
incident.
should be put down.
Wow.
I feel like I feel like there should be common sense. If you're walking into a vet's office full of animals that could be there. I mean, what if they're going to get some sort of a treatment that helps calm them down? You don't know what you're walking into. Why would you yell at an animal that could be provoked and attack you? Have common sense.
Why are you yelling at an animal anyway?
Exactly.
I mean, it's an animal. All it hears is...
If you're willing to get an animal put down for a check, you don't deserve to be here.
Wow. Easy killer.
Sorry.
That one maybe went a little too equalizer.
Don't be stupid. Don't cause an animal to get put down.
That's good advice in general. Don't be stupid.
It is good advice. On the same token, if that happened, I would be concerned about personally being around that animal. Because to me, I mean, there is the old adage that once an animal tastes blood, it craves blood. And I believe that adage. I've witnessed it. I've seen it happen. So I know that it's a thing where certain animals can attack a person and feel like it's okay now. So you have to be cautious. Now, I don't think you necessarily have to put the animal down, but you definitely need to be more cautious about it, especially if you are not a family of that animal, because you don't know when an animal is going to see you as a threat. In this situation, now that those dogs they both enjoyed a little bit of people, they were
smiling. They were really happy about it.
Yeah, they're like, man, this tasted good. People taste good. I need some more people. You don't know.
I've never tried people. I don't know.
Maybe you like it.
Yeah, maybe they're onto something.
You don't get to come over for dinner anymore. That's how I would see it. I would be concerned about my well-being.
And I think it comes down to how they're training their animals.
That leads me to my next one, which is people love animals. Everybody loves animals. And some people love animals way more than people. And most of the time, people raise them to be affectionate friends. Love me, because an animal is going to love you no matter what, as long as you feed them. That's the rule. But where do you stand on people training their animals to be used almost as weapons, as Mike does here? That's obviously what he was doing, or the purpose of my story, that's what he was doing. He taught his animals to be guns in his own home. How do you feel about raising an animal to do that, Zach?
Well, in Mike's situation, defending the house, I don't think that's Eat them up. Burglars are bad. They're bad for business. Mike should know, you know what I'm saying? But if you're training them to, where you could, I guess, just take them around and just be like, hey, sick them. And you just maul some dude's neck out. That's probably not good.
Well, I don't think you can differentiate. You
don't think so?
No, you can't differentiate. If you're going to have an animal trained to attack or trained to be a weapon, they're going to be a weapon inside your home and outside your home. Where do you stand on that? Because are you okay with them creating a weapon out of an animal as opposed to just letting them be an animal?
Well, first of all, I think it's extremely sad that anyone would have to be put in that position that they need to have animals as a weapon to protect themselves in their home. It's just sad for society. But in terms of the animals, I don't necessarily believe that they can be raised solely as weapons, and if they're taught to be defensive, that they're not going to be able to discern. There are plenty of animals that are loyal enough to protect their family and their home, but not attack others. I've had those dogs where they protect you while you're sleeping and sit right in front of you and don't let anyone come near you and protect you, but they're not going to harm anybody for no reason. They're only going to harm someone if they feel that their family is being attacked or their home. So I think animals have some ability to discern the situation depending on how they're trained and raised. And and I see it very similarly the way that children are. If how you raise your children, how they act is based off of how you raise them, the environment that they're brought up in. And if an animal is and you mentioned that they're in the projects, it's a very violent area. The dogs probably in that environment might not be able to discern the situation because they're constantly met with violence and they're constantly met with having to be defensive. But in terms of an area that's not as violent as that, I think that animals do have the ability, when they're raised properly, to say, you know what, we're not being attacked right now walking down the street. This is just another friendly person. But if they get too close, I'm going to growl because they shouldn't be getting too close to my family. And if my family tells me it's okay, then it's okay. And I've seen it. So I don't know. I think they have that ability.
You use the word improperly. So if people are training them to be weapons, that's improper to you.
In terms of somebody living in the projects, I feel like you don't really have much of another choice. I think that you have to find a way to protect yourself and your family in the only way you know how. And you might not be able to be home all the time to protect your children or something. I mean, for whatever reason, if it's...
Or your weed, in Mike's case.
Or your weed, yeah, that too. But, I mean, when it comes to somebody who's just trying to protect themselves and they're just born into an unfortunately violent area, they can't control that. They have to protect themselves somehow. So raising them to do that is one thing, but raising them to be part of your drug cartel, that I think is where you're crossing lines. So again, I'm another case by case basis sort of person. And I think it really just depends on that for this too. So he probably shouldn't do drugs, sell them, and he wouldn't have this problem possibly.
Bottom line, don't do drugs.
Drugs are bad.
Dare to dream better.
There you go.
About you, Aaron? You a big fan of weaponized animals?
No, I think it's cruel, honestly. I get why certain environmental situations would require it because there's more, if it's a higher crime rate, if there's a greater threat to burglary, if there's a greater danger, then I understand it. But I also know that an animal, to be trained to do that, to attack people, that's never going to end well for anyone, actually, for the person that animals come in contact with, as well as, or for the animal themselves. Because, see, here's how I take it. An animal is trained to attack, and animals do learn. Dogs especially will learn to do whatever you teach them to do. And if you train them to be vicious, they can be vicious. Now, is that really the fault of the animal, or is that the fault of the trainer? Because if that animal does attack somebody, he will be put down. He or she will be put down. And then basically the trainer caused that animal to attack a person, which then led to that animal's death. Is that fair to the animal? I find that aspect to be cruel. I firmly believe dogs are going to be naturally defensive of the people that they care about. And I'm fine with that. But training them to be weapons, teaching them to hurt another person on command or any other way is a cruel abuse of ownership in my eyes.
So I have a question for you based off of everything you just said. What about police canines? They're trained to be weapons. But in terms of trying to protect people. So how do you feel about that? Because they are being trained as weapons.
Same thing. I feel the same way.
So you think it's cruel?
I do think it's cruel. I always have. And I'm sure there are police officers that would scream at me and say, you don't understand. Like, I understand training dogs to be drug sniffers, or training them to track, but training them to understand how to react defensively, in defense of their owner and stuff. But I don't believe that they train them in the same way that they train them to be weapons. I don't believe that goes on, but if it does go on, I think it's cruel. An animal doesn't need to be trained to attack people in any way, shape, or form. And I don't believe canines are. I believe they're mostly trained to track and detect narcotics and scents and that sort of thing. There are a bunch of videos of canine units, because they have those giant foam arm guards that police wear to train the dogs to go after the limbs of the perps. I think that's cruel. I do. I think training a dog to attack a person is cruel. They don't need that. We don't need an animal to attack perps. We've got people for that. So to me, training an animal to do that is cruel. I mean, that's another selfish thing that man does to me. What do you think? Zach, you seem like you disagree with that.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't strike me as overtly cruel. I don't know. It's kind of it's not a topic I've ever really put any thought into. So I'm kind of trying to formulate my opinions on the fly, honestly. But we've used animals as beasts of burden throughout our entire history, and I guess I could see that being cruel. But training a dog to be defensive, I guess, doesn't strike me as cruel. Police officers using his dog to bring down a bad guy doesn't strike me as cruel. Maybe I'm not looking at it the right way, but the animal's still getting treated well to me.
Well, let me rephrase the question then. So you're looking at it from the lens of cop is using the animal to quote unquote do good, right? Bring down a bad guy. Right. Same circumstances. The animal's well treated, well respected, well trained, but taught to bring down good people. Do you feel the same way then, or do you feel differently because you're teaching them to bring down good people, not bad people? You know what I mean? I mean, you're still teaching the animal the same thing, just for different reasons.
Yeah, the person training is a cruel one. Training the dog itself to be defensive or, I guess, aggressive, even in the police case, or, to have them rip up that burglar in bloody fashion, I don't think those are bad things to me.
It's as simple as behind the reasoning, essentially, and how the animal is attacking. If the animal is attacking in a Dexter-like manner, there's probably something wrong.
Like with blood slides and things?
Well, I mean, like ripping it apart.
like tearing let me get that blood here.
Pieces, body going into pieces, that sort of thing. If it's
Dexter did nothing wrong.
If it's a vicious attack, regardless of if it's a canine, like a police canine, or if it's just somebody's home animal, I feel like you can't really differentiate between having police defense and home defense when it comes to animals. If you're treating them to be, you're training them to be defensive if somebody's attacking you, that's one thing. When it comes to somebody who's doing something that's wrong or is going to harm another individual, I would be perfectly fine with a police canine grabbing, their arm or something of somebody who just committed some sort of crime. Maybe they assault and battery and they're running away. If they get them down and the police are not able to handcuff them and take them into jail and go through that entire process. But if they're ripping their limbs off, now we have a problem. It's the same thing for the home. If they're being vicious just to be vicious, then they're not being trained properly and it's cruel. If they're just being trained to be good defensive animals, loyal animals, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I think they're innately defensive and loyal. And you're just trying to train them to use those methods appropriately.
I don't know. It feels like you guys are okay with training them to be vicious as long as it's for quote-unquote good reasons. Training them to be defensive and training them to attack people as long as it's for your reasons. See what I'm saying? I mean...
Let's look at it from Mike's perspective as the drug dealer, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's...
Alleged drug dealer, just because he saw narcotics doesn't mean he was dealing them. Come on, let's not stereotype.
Allegedly. Mike living in the projects with his piece. And his narcotics, just wrong place, wrong time.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, let's say he's using the dog, I guess, for bad reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a drug deal's happening and the guy's, I don't know, he won't pay up the full sum for the brick of cocaine. So he's like, hey, my boy Brutus here. Like, he just like, hey, Brutus, and he's like starts scrawling or something. What Mike is doing, Mike is engaging in criminal activity and it's bad, but I don't think the training the dog to intimidate is in itself bad or cruel. Because I think it is what the police are doing as well. So I don't think training the dog to be even aggressive or intimidating is inherently cruel.
You believe it's okay to train animals to be aggressive and intimidating at times?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I know where you all stand. I'm not loaning my dog to either one of you. I'm just letting you know.
I don't like the aggressive nature.
Your little dog is not intimidating.
I just like defensive protection.
Protection. Well, that's the only reason people have dogs. That and to hug and cuddle.
Cuddle with them.
Yeah.
No.
It's actually like that's why cats are here.
Yeah. Oh, they're so precious.
They're so cuddly.
But you can get
they are naturally aggressive.
You can get a big dog and it'll be like the size of like a small human. And it's like, you're so snuggly and cute. And they can even like jump up on you and
or you can buy a prostitute like a normal person.
Yeah.
Come on.
Buy a prostitute.
Rent. You don't buy them. You rent them.
Just call Mike. He knows some girls.
All right. So was this story truth or fiction? Amanda?
Fiction.
Zach?
Truth.
It was truth.
Ooh.
What's up?
What? True story. That happened.
Were you doing?
Did it happen to you?
It did happen to me.
Which one were you in the story?
I would be Jake in this story.
Okay. So you're not the drug dealer.
Was not the drug dealer.
Just for clarity, I just want to make sure.
Wrong guy, wrong time, Zach. That's who I was.
Yeah. Hey, look, I don't care if you sold drugs. You know what? Your past doesn't matter to me.
Ooh.
I see what you did there. Yeah. No, that actually happened, and that scene was worse than I described. That was actually a calm retelling.
Well, why didn't you give us the worst version?
Because it was true story. It looked like a murder scene. It was one of the scariest things I've ever walked into in my life. Like, you just wanted to leave before you became complicit in whatever happened in that room. That's the truth of it.
Damn.
Yep. But hey, what are you going to do?
Did Mike really have a big screen TV?
I mean, yeah, but it was a long time ago, so it was one of those big, giant, thick box ones.
Yeah, just thinking about you being younger, I was like, no, they have big screen TVs back then?
They did, but they were about 400 pounds. Nobody's taking that out without somebody noticing, trust me. To be fair, never went to that house again because those dogs scared the crap out of me after that.
You're cute.
No, they were not. They enjoyed it. They were like, nom, 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 nom.
Hold on, I got
What's
a little
that
in my
taste
teeth.
like? I got a little people in my teeth. I know, look at that. You smell like the last guy. Hold still, bud.
So, with all of this bloody viciousness, what's the name of your what's the title of your story?
Barking Mad.
Oh, I get it.
Get it? Clever, huh? Yeah.
It's gonna sound like a Stephen King novel.
I should have thrown in something supernatural.
Yeah.
And then ghosts appeared.
And then
I would have given it away that it was fiction.
It could have been triction.
Oh my gosh.
It's like Fetch. Stop trying to make it happen.
It's going to happen.
No, stop trying to make that happen. Truth and fiction have to be separate. They're different things. Different.
Or?
That's
my yeah.
Yeah.
Is it truth or fiction? Or?
Yeah.
It's or.
There's an or in there. Jeez.
Yeah. Have you never done like you're like in 4th grade and the girls hand you the note, do you like me, yes or no? And you circle or, just a teaser.
You're terrible.
Did it work for you?
Of course.
Yeah. That's how you play them.
Stop nagging women.
I'm not nagging.
I bet you nag. I bet you.
That's playing the game. Don't hate the player. Hate the game.
Yeah.
Or you can hate both.
Hey, no, that's not cool. Come on now.
All right. Well, as the show goes, we will occasionally pick listener stories to read from and discuss on Smirk. If you'd like to have yours read, email to mystory@smirkpodcast.com. You can join the conversation by joining our Facebook group, Smirk on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter @SmirkPodcast. Be sure to use the show's hashtag Smirk. Please tell your friends as well. That's how we grow the show. Share the show with your friends on your social media outlets. Don't miss an episode. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one to Smirk on your podcast app of choice. And also our website is smirkpodcast.com. How'd you guys like that one? You like dog stories?
It was interesting. I liked.
Yeah, there's blood, so that's pretty cool.
I liked where you got the moral from. I thought that was interesting. It was funny.
It's a good title.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, can we play some DMX? Can we all rap DMX right now?
Why would we rap DMX?
Because he does his little... Come on.
Wow. Okay, and on that
X gonna
note,
give it to you. He gonna give it to
as
you.
you write your own life story, always remember to tell it with a smirk.
And a bark.
Rough Riders, you don't want none.